Good day, and thank you for tuning in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. For all of our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in for the very first time, I'm Pastor Pope, and thank you for allowing us to come into your listening and viewing environment. We are here with you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, broadcasting live from the FijiWater.com sponsored studio, where you can discuss careers, finances, entrepreneurship. You can discuss marriage, divorce, raising children, blending families. You can discuss dating and relationships. Whatever's in your heart, whatever's on your mind, God is concerned about that which concerns you. And that is the reason that we are here with you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, which is brought to you daily by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature? It is untouched by man. It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock, where the water collects in a natural, sustainable artesian aquifer, where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact until you unscrew the blue cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery. And you will save money at FijiWater.com. This is not just ordinary water. This is Earth's finest water at FijiWater.com. And for those of you who continue giving on the contribution pages of our websites at NewLifeMinistriesInternational.com and NewLifeInternationalCDC.com, and those of you who continue using the QR code or the link provided, or now we have Zelle available at the T-Mobile caller text line at 267-992-1424. We thank all of you for your continued support and for your commitment as we fulfill our commitment to God to be here for you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. So let me begin by saying we're having some real technical issues today. We've been dealing with some technology issues on one of our platforms anyway, on our one of our Facebook pages. We encourage you to go over to our YouTube page at Daily Divine Direction, because we've been having a little problem at one of our Facebook. We actually have two Facebook pages available, and for some reason the integration on one of them is not functioning correctly. Then in addition to that, which you all know I'm going to remind you, we're in the midst of a monthly FijiWater.com sponsored promo, where you can go to our internet radio station, WKAPFaith.com, and first three songs you hear at 11 a.m. or at 6 p.m. You list those songs along with your name and your email address, so that one of our listeners and viewers will be selected to receive a case of Fiji water from FijiWater.com, Earth's finest water. Well, we had just received a notification before coming on the air that our internet radio station went down. So we're going to be, you saw me looking at my laptop and looking at my devices to see if we're back up yet. Unfortunately, notification says we're not back up as of yet, but we're going to be working on that to get that restored so that you can continue to hear music on our internet radio station, WKAPFaith.com, music that will encourage you, empower you, and inspire you to become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly become. So there's a lot going on at New Life. And we thank God, we give God all the glory, but I know that, these moments occur and we don't have any control over them, so we do what we can do to make certain that everything is functioning properly. So that's why you see me keep looking at my devices for notification, but I'm going to, as you saw, get in the chair and do what God has assigned me to do while others are working on the technology components. So I'm going to address a communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you find yourself single and dating in your 40s, and you said that you're finding it is not a good experience. And you want to know, why has dating changed so much, and why has it become more difficult to have a relationship? So let me begin by saying this. First and foremost, what has changed more than anything else is the society in which we live. So there's a lot of factors that would complicate dating for someone who is mature. You're not old, you're just mature. You're in your 40s. And in your 40s, most people, there are exceptions to every rule, but in your 40s, most people are mature. You understand that these nuances that have occurred in our society. So let's kind of break it down. Let's think about what you're dealing with, the dynamics that you have to tolerate. So there's a lot of moving variables to this. And we have, first of all, men who don't want to be men. We have women who don't want to be women. We have men who, because women have made it so much harder for men to date, and that's all the societal issue, because they didn't come up with it on their own. They're flowing with the tide. And so women have made it more difficult for men to date properly, and men therefore have decided that they're going to succumb to societal norms and they're going to change up some things. So there's always these variables. So I will share with you a lot of communications. So as you know, we're here, I say this Monday through Friday, scheduling permitted. So we're still working out the dynamics of schedules. Just bear with me. But I'm here today to say this. The societal issues of, the grab bag, the societal issues of men not wanting to pay for dates until they know there's going to be a relationship, they're going to split the check. There's a lot of variables that you're dealing with today that married people don't have to deal with. And so what you're experiencing is the difficulties of the change of society's attitude towards a man's role and a woman's role. And I know I'm going to get some emails about this and some communications about this. So let me just say to everyone, I love hearing from you. This is something I expect when I make this comment. But here's the reality. We have to go back to the basics. We have to get back to men being men and women being women. And what I mean by that is men being real men and women being virtuous women. Meaning men should be a gentleman. I know there's a lot of men watching. We got a lot of viewers, and viewers watch. So I know we have a lot of men who watch. Men have to get back to the basics of, I'm going to ask a woman out. I'm going to pay for the date. I'm going to pay for the privilege of taking her out and getting to know her. Now, don't want to change the revelation of God, because I'm going to say this until the day I go home to be with the Lord. We have to get back to the basics of dating is for the purpose of setting a date. So in order to do that, you need to know that the two of you can walk together in agreement. You need to know that you're equally yoked. And what that means is you ask a woman out, you should take her to church and out to lunch 3 times. If she doesn't want to do the 3 consecutive Sundays, if she doesn't want to do that, she's not for you. And women, if a man asks you out, you shouldn't be asking him to take you out and wine you and dine you. What you should be asking him is take you to church and to lunch or brunch after church. That way you both have the opportunity to get to know one another. Men, if you can't afford to take a woman out, don't ask her out. We got to get back to the basics of life. I know we all think that fundamentally things have changed, but no, the game hasn't changed. The game of life hasn't changed. Only the players have changed. And so therefore, what we see now is players play and players get played. You don't want to enter into a relationship with someone that is based on anything other than a foundation laid in God. And I'm not suggesting any of us are perfect. What I am suggesting is that there is a specific intent about dating. And other than that, you shouldn't date. You should just be patient. Because a woman has to prepare herself to be a wife, not a girlfriend. A man has to find the wife that God has appointed for his life and has assigned for his life. And when you do that, then you truly find your soulmate. And then you truly find the one jewel, one diamond in a field of rocks. We've got to know how important it is to get back to the basics. And if we don't get back to the basics, we're going to watch our society deteriorate even at a greater pace. Because we're all messed up right now. We're all messed up because if we don't seek the righteousness of God, let me go here because this will take me to another communication later in the broadcast. If we don't seek the righteousness of God, and this is what we see going on in our society today, then we will begin to create our own righteousness. We will be able to create what we think is right because it's what we want to do. And we got to recognize none of that is going to work for us. None of that is going to work in the end. So we've got to take a step back and we've got to say, okay, is this the best thing for my life? Is this the best thing for me? God has something better for me than choosing my own righteousness, choosing what I want to do. We've got to get back to the basics. So the reason you're finding it difficult is because of society itself. But don't allow that to get you off course. You stay on the course of, I have requirements, I have standards, I have requirements, I have expectations. If a man is going to ask you out, and this is how you eliminate them, listen, you know, when people don't want to follow the way of God, they only eliminate themselves from the process. They're doing you a favor. They're eliminating themselves from the process of what God has in store for you. Because you have favor. So you have favor in your 40s. Okay? So just remember this. Someone wants to take you out. Don't waste your time. You know, it's very interesting. I was talking to students yesterday. And one of the things that I shared with them is about getting a return on the investment of their time. And this isn't new. I say this continuously. ROI, the return on investment. And I said to them, you've got to maximize the return on the investment of the time you spend in school every day. Well, you also have to get a return on the investment of the time you spend with anyone. You got to get a return on the investment, and you don't want to just get a return on investment. You want to maximize that return on investment. Meaning, so you could get a return on your investment by meeting someone, you know, as people say, falling in love. You know, we all fall, but eventually we have to get up. You have to say, okay, is this for my life? How much time am I going to give to this? Sometimes we end up getting married with someone that God did not join us to. Then divorce happens, and the only return we might get on the investment are the children that come out of the marriage. But that's not maximizing the return on investment, because the maximum return on the investment would be that you eventually end up being married for 40 years until the Lord calls you home. The only way that's going to happen, and think about this, you're in your 40s now. You meet someone who's a godly man, you two build your foundation on a relationship with the Lord, you build your foundation on what God has appointed for your life, and you're in your 40s and you end up getting married next year or the year after, and you stay married for the next 40 years. That's a win. That's maximizing your return on investment. So you end up being married in your 80s for 40 years. You know, it's great if we start earlier, but it's okay that we don't start earlier, because it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So if you can live until the Lord doesn't call you home until you're in your 80s, you could be married, feasibly be married for 40 years. Be married for 40 years with the right person. So let's focus on what God wants for us and not what society tells us we can want for ourselves. Because that's where we get off track, is following the herd and just believing that whatever society tells us we can do, it's all right if we do it. Because that's never going to be a win in the end. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you're not currently a T-Mobile customer, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will move you into our queue so that you may become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees are included in your bill, and if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill. At T-Mobile, America's largest and fastest 5G provider at no extra charge. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that your sister refuses to date a man who does not make at least $100,000 a year. However, she is running through some good men, you say, and since you both are watching today, you asked me to share thoughts on this particular subject. So let me say this. First of all, to God be the glory. Thank you for being tuned in. I know you said in your communication that you both also listen daily, but you're both tuned in today, so that's great. So I'm going to respond to this by saying this, first of all. All right, so what your sister has done is set a standard of $100,000 a year. So what she's done is she's saying, I'm only available to 1% of not the entire population, but I'm only available to 1% of men in our society, because 1% is 1% across the board. So whether it's 1% of the total population that make over $100,000 a year, yes, you are reducing into fractions the 1% of the total population. But let's only focus on the men. So less than 1% of men, because 1% across the board makes $100,000 a year. So that's the standard you set. But then your sister says that you're running through some good men, because you're dating a lot. But no matter how much time you spend dating, you do not get in a relationship with a man if he doesn't make $100,000 a year. So first, you've got standards. And secondly, you have an expectation. So you've only got two things working for you. You've got to create another category, one for the Father, one for the Son, one for the Holy Spirit. And I'm going to tell you what that category is. But you've only been focused on your standard and your expectation. You got to look at the potential also, because if a guy's making $80,000 a year, which, you know, the percentage increases on that. If a guy's making $80,000 a year, but he has the potential to make $100,000 a year, you got to look at that potential also, because you've really eliminated a major segment of the male population. And you've got to say, does he have the potential to do more? that's not only setting a standard, that's examining potential, and then you can have expectations. You can have expectation that whoever the man is, he's going to be a godly man that is going to examine every opportunity and pursue his purpose through his potential. So your sister's right. You're running through some good men looking for that magic number. The magic number's okay, but if I can keep it real with you, $100,000 is not the end of the world. So, it's not the end all beat all. It's just that you set that as a standard because you don't want you're gonna sing that song Scrubs. You don't want what you perceive to be a scrub. But you may be missing, as your sister said. However, you may be missing a good man if you eliminate him without examining his potential. I'm not suggesting to you to date someone who's, living in his parents' basement, playing video games, not doing anything positive with his life. That's not what we're suggesting to you. And some people will say, well, even he has potential, but if he's not putting in any work and that's all he's doing with his time, he's not for you. Shouldn't be for anyone because he's not ready to be for anyone. But if he gets up every day and he's trying to do something positive and he's maybe not making $100,000 a year, but what if he's making 85? What if he's making 75? With the potential to do much more. So you gotta standards, potential, then expectations. You gotta look at all those components. Before you do that, you've got to know, is he a godly man? Because if he's a godly man, he's got a lot of potential to build a great quality of life. He's going to be searching for new opportunities, new potential to do great things. You got to take all of that into consideration. You've got to look at that and you've got to say, this is someone, and something that I can work with, that we can build together. And realistically, that $100,000 number, that's not the end all be all. There's a lot more money out there to be made. But you've gotta say, I've set my standard. My standard is I want a godly man. How about that? Go there first. I want a man who has potential to build a great quality of life. Go there second. And then these are my expectations. I want him to be career focused. I want him to be driven. I want him to have purpose. I want him, you gotta look at all those components before you just say $100,000 a year he doesn't get me. Not what I want. You get $100,000 a year in salary from a man who doesn't have a relationship with the Lord, who is living according to societal norms and the way the world has dictated that it's possible to live, and he's going to explore the possibilities instead of his potential. So I want to say to both of you, thank you for always being with us in our listening, in your listening and viewing environment. Thank you for allowing us to come into your listening and viewing environment. But your sister's right. You're running through some good men who may have the potential to build a great quality of life with you, only because they don't meet the number threshold. Numbers don't lie. Numbers are good. But if he has the potential, if he has God in his life and potential to build a great quality of life, if he's a man of God, give him an opportunity, because you can't go wrong with that. You can go wrong with everyone else out here. You can't go wrong with that one. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by Charles Tyrwhitt, located in London, the UK. They also have stores in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and at the King of Prussia Mall in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So if you're in any of those areas, stop in at their retail stores. They have everything a man could possibly need. Shirts for men, suits for men, ties for men, and accessories. And if you're not in any of those areas, you can order from Charles Tyrwhitt at ctshirts.com. They will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. And the White Company, located in London, the UK. They also have a store on Fifth Avenue in New York. So if you're in New York, you don't want to miss this. Stop in at their retail store. They have everything you could possibly need. Home goods, clothing for men, women, and children. And if you're not in New York, you can order from the White Company also by going to thewhitecompany.com. They too will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers, and I'm going to do this in a way that it will address a lot of communications that I've been getting about relationship, your spiritual relationship, and your relationship with others. So, professionally. So, I want to do this because I think it's going to be important for everyone to realize and recognize we are, in the last quarter of the year. And you want to finish the year professionally strong. So in answer to your question, yes, there's a direct correlation between your spiritual growth and your professional growth. There's a direct correlation between God enlarging your coast and God saying, be still and know that he is God. Because God will provide everything you need, maybe not everything you want, but everything you need. And he will exceed abundantly above all you can ask or think, according to his power working in you and through you. So, having said that, one of the things that we have to recognize is that the more we work on our spiritual life, the more profound our personal and professional life is going to become. The more we work on our spiritual life, the more God can trust you with his glory. The more God can trust you to be what he needs you to be to bring him glory. So we got to work on that premise also. And you've got to trust God that he knows what he's doing at all times, even if you don't know what he's doing. But the good news is that he will reveal it to you the closer you get to him. The closer you get to God, the more you grow your spiritual life, God will reveal some things to you because you're capable of handling them. You're capable of receiving them. You got to look at every component of your life and you've got to say, how can I include my spiritual being in my physical experience, my physical being? So, for all of our listeners and viewers, and I'm going to get more into this because there's a lot of topics to discuss in the coming broadcast. But for all of our listeners and viewers, one of the things I want to encourage you to do is do this for the remainder of this year. And you'll be amazed at